Good evening and welcome to Flat Earth United Kingdom. Joining me on this happy evening is Patricia Steere. How are you doing, Patricia?
I'm doing great, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Super. And we've also got Stephen Chess. How are you doing, Stephen?
Doing good, Nathan. How about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. And last but not least, we've got Tony, Caveman444. How are you doing, Tony?
Hey, Nathan. Feeling great. Great to be here.
Super. The topic for this evening's discussion is communicating flat Earth to the people at large, how best to do it, the pitfalls that we will have all experienced along our path through the flat Earth discovery, and hopefully we'll pass on some useful information to those who are watching that might help you present the information in a way that doesn't get the usual screaming and anger and hatred that's directed towards people who understand and know that the Earth is in fact flat. So maybe we can kick off with any of you guys who have had a positive experience passing on this information to somebody that you know and love. Who wants to go first?
Well, I recently took a road trip up north to go visit my parents, and I was with my grandparents. And I know that my grandfather-in-law, I have 3 grandparents, was kind of into this kind of thing, conspiracies, and he kind of thought that an asteroid was coming and people were coming to like save him or something like that at some point. So I knew I had to be a little bit careful about that. People really believe in space and like aliens and they're coming to save us and that kind of stuff. So you got to kind of tread lightly, you know what I mean? But I was sort of, testing the waters with them a little bit, just bringing up sort of smaller conspiracies, and we were like driving past the beach, and I was just talking about how we're here and questioning the shape of the world, questioning where we live, and they seem receptive. So I continued, and I did seem like I convinced them, which is kind of weird to say, but they're very open-minded.
So you didn't reach a point where they completely braced against it?
It actually, my grandmother, she said, "Oh, so and so, he worked on the Apollo." So I can't remember exactly, and I just said, "Yeah, I'm sure it was a great piece of engineering, but it could have just been launched into the ocean, and everything else could have been faked." And she was like, "Yeah, that could have been." That's when you look at the pictures and stuff. I showed them all pictures when we got somewhere, when we got to where we were going. It looks so fake that anyone looking back is just going to be like, "Oh my God, like how could we have believed that? It looks, like coat hangers and tinfoil."
The lunar lander.
I'm kind of jealous though, because I can imagine Stephen Chess presenting this idea to me and how warm and fuzzy I would feel for having it presented by yourself. And it would be presented in a manner that was gentle and easing. And that's kind of why I'm pleased you phrased it in that way, because everyone else will be going, "What? They were accepting of this? That makes no sense." But that's why you're here, Stephen, because the way you would have undoubtedly presented it was, a gentle massage into the idea rather than, how is it Mark Sargent used to phrase it? Flat Earth spray?
Flat Earth spray.
Yes. Yeah. He also would say it's like a paint. Once it gets in your head, it's like a paint can with those ball bearings that are in it. It'll just keep rattling around in your head.
A marble in a paint can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So talk us through it then. So what's your advice to the guy who's watching that's just found out today and is itching to tell next man about flat Earth? How would you help that guy along, and how would you help him in your presentation?
Well, firstly, I kind of start with the movement. You know what I mean? It's just something very simple to explain to someone that, your whole life you don't feel like you're moving. And then roadblocks that people hit, are like definitely the moon landing and all of that kind of fakery. So you kind of walk them through that kind of stuff. And then by that time we were driving past the coast. So I'm like, yeah, we think it's flat. And it's just like we're looking at, the horizon, while driving up, the, what's it called? I think it's the 101. Yeah, the 101. And it's just like, you're crazy to think it's a globe at that point. You know what I mean? But my dad still thinks it's a globe, and he lives right at the beach. So there's different people, you know. Like, I won't even tell my other grandparents because they're totally closed off to anything like this. You know, I got shut down a few years ago when I brought up a couple of things that the president has now said, you know. So I don't exactly agree with what I said back then now, but, you know, I was going through a different kind of phase.
Was it alien related?
No, just the whole, like, oh, build a wall and this and that, you know, but that all lends to government power and, you know, monopolies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Immigration, it's one of those touchy issues. Sometimes you can look at it and say, well, you can't just have any people just coming on in to your borders. And then you look at it and say, but controlling anything is bad. But then you say controlling some things is good, because if we didn't have stop signs and stoplights, we'd all crash into each other. So it's back and forth with what's right, what's wrong. Building a wall, not a good idea, in my opinion.
Well, the way that it is now, you know, we have all kinds of systems in place to help people who live here. So people who are coming over here are going to be wanting to take advantage of that. But the way that I would prefer it being is not having any of those systems and not having taxes imposed on us. You know, if it were like that, open walls, you know, open borders, you know, but it would be, you know, you're on your own. You know, everybody's on their own without the government. So,
yeah.
You've hit on the most poignant part of Flat Earth. I didn't think we'd get to this in the show, but it's fantastic that we have, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, we're contained in this prison cell that we call the globe, and the whole point of this, right spanning through all of the maps through the whole of time, is to control where we live and be able to tax the land and tax the people and keep us essentially under control. You know, the money itself is just a form of control, and essentially we have figured out that there may be the possibility of more land. There may be more out there, and if we're tied into the shipping lanes and you know, the flight routes that are laid out and designated by the powers that should not be, we will only ever experience the land that they tell us they're not making any more of it. You know, this is all there is. And 500 years ago, you know, the people in, well, maybe a little bit more than 500 years ago, the people who were in the States, the Native Americans, experienced an alien invasion. They literally had a more powerful alien force land on their doorstep, invade their country and take it over. For the rest of us, the invading forces, we were on, you know, we were the powerful people. We weren't the invaded. But potentially, why shouldn't that happen again? You know, they were presented with a map that Martin and I went to see, the map on Monday, and the people of that time were told, this is it, this is all there is. Similar to what we hear now with the globe. But ultimately, the new world was discovered, you know, and the alien race was, you know, dominated, and that could happen again, but for the fact that we're told we live on a globe.
Passports is another way they keep us controlled, and border control, another way that we won't be able to go certain places without them allowing us or disallowing us. So those are also parts that I think are totally ridiculous. I remember as an American going to Canada when I was younger without a passport. Now I need a passport to go to Canada. And of course, that all can be traced back in many cases to 9/11, which was another aspect of control. They're not trying to protect us from terrorism. It's all about keeping us controlled so we don't see what's out there, so we don't go elsewhere, so we don't become the aliens somewhere else, the modern day explorers. We're taught when we're in school that everything's been discovered. That's another thing. When we're really young, we're told that, you know, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and all of these things, and all of this incredible, like Ponce de Leon, things that happened, these discoveries were made, and now we know what the world is, and you can just settle right back and watch TV because it's all been accounted for. Don't ever think otherwise.
And plus, you know, a fence around the whole world would just cost too much. So all you got to do is fold the earth in on itself, and there you go. You don't even need a fence then.
Was that a biblical reference by any chance, Tony?
No.
It doesn't matter if it was, but I mean, that is one of the references. You know, it's a biblical reference. The world will be folded in on itself.
I didn't know that.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Well, my uncle used it as a defense when I spoke to him about flat Earth, so he was the first person I interviewed was my uncle. He was a pastor. He's now retired. But he said, the Bible's full of all sorts of nonsense that you can't make sense of. He said, the world will fold in on itself, it says at some stage. And what the hell does that mean? And before I could say to him, well, that's fascinating, because in my view, that's exactly what has happened. It was sort of passed off before I had a chance to say that. I mean, that interview's up on my channel. I think
that's interesting.
One of the early ones, but I don't know the biblical reference. That's why I asked if you knew it was.
I did not know. And, I forgot what I was going to say. It just left me.
Well, I was going to come to you next anyway, Tony, because you managed to communicate the message of flat Earth through the medium of radio. But in order to massage your way into those people, in order to get your message across to somebody that knows they're going to have a wide influence, you must have had a subtle or a very gentle way of getting the idea of flat Earth through to the producers. Maybe you could explain that to the audience. Hopefully that will be helpful to some people listening.
Well, all you guys know what I'm talking about when I say it's very, very fun to sit back and take your time and calmly, professionally just move through the information how you want to. It's very exciting. You have all this information from everyone, and tailoring it to the person you're talking to is very exciting for me. And what I did with those guys, I was sending them emails, and the email header, I think, was "The world is not what you think it is." And I was just telling him how I just like to research things, and I think it's ridiculous that I don't have proof after a year or so that I live on a globe. I just think it was ridiculous. It was unacceptable is what I told him. And that's just, I try to, if I'm trying to talk to people who know certain things, who have schooling in these things, and I want them to give flat Earth a chance, I will, I'll do things like that. I'll inspire a mystery in their mind. But I do have a good success rate with people, but that's just because I make it so that it's a good success rate, which means if I talk to you about flat Earth, it's only because of two ways. Okay, one, specifically, so then I will talk to you about, I'll tell you everything I know. Or two, you've ridiculed me in the past about flat Earth, so now I'm really going to tell you, I'm going to give you all my proofs, and now you don't deserve to go on and not know my arguments. You know what I'm saying? After I get feedback like that, you don't deserve to be ignorant anymore. I have to tell you about the proofs now. And your occasional third option, which is I see somebody at a bus station and we're alone, and I can talk to them personally, one-on-one, and just throw out flat Earth to them. A stranger I'm never going to see again. It's not that big of a deal. But the only reason I have such a good success rate is because I only talk to people who are interested. If they are interested, I invite them over. We have all night, we hang out all night and just talk about everything. And at the end of the night, and they have to, I said this on the last show, it's so weird how at one point they do have to vocalize the possibility that I could be right. They do say it. They say, I don't know, you may be right. This is crazy, man. It may be flat. It's so weird how they just have an impulse to vocalize it when it becomes a possibility. Very interesting.
I mean, I think the thing I took from that most interestingly was that you got to know the people. In other words, if you're tailoring the information to a specific individual, you've got to know where they're coming from in the first instance. So I think the mistake a lot of people out there will make is they just want to get their information, their knowledge across to somebody, regardless of who it is and what they're like, whereas understanding who they are, where they will, having a bit of empathy, seeing how they will take this information and understanding how you can communicate it based on who they are is a very a difficult thing to do when you've got this information. I remember the first day thinking, wow, this is like a golden egg. I must pass it to the next person. It's difficult. It's hard.
Yeah. And like for an example, if you're talking to a hairdresser, someone who is a hairdresser, you're going to want to ask them, show them a picture of the astronaut lady on the ISS and ask them, do they think, is this hairspray in their hair or not? You know, it didn't work with me because my father's a hairdresser. I asked him if there's hairspray in this lady's hair. He said no, because there's no gravity in the space station. So it kind of backfired on me. But really try and tailor it, you know. And the best technique I've found is to take a back seat when you're talking to them. Sit back and just answer the questions coming at you. You know, they will ask question after question after question, and you will give them an answer and at least 3 reasons why you believe that way. I mean, every flat earther's done so much research. So on a whole night of questions to the flat earther, the night I asked them one question about their globe. For instance, you know, does the air move with the globe or does it rotate independently of the globe? And they spend hours trying to answer that one question. And it clicks in their head. You know what I mean? They can't answer one question when I've spent all night answering their flat earth questions. That's a really good strategy I found.
Yeah, we have to become sort of heliocentric experts. I know, Stephen, when you debated Stefan Molyneux, you had to have an excellent understanding of how the globe worked to begin with in order to put your flat earth arguments across calmly and collectively.
Well,
Right.
at that point, you know, I had already been in the flat earth for quite some time. So, you know, I had quite a bit of knowledge about it. But, you know, like I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I know it seems a little bit unrelated, but it is not unrelated. And the way they do it is they pass out little white notes to people in the congregation to do readings from the Bible in front of everybody, you know, like speeches. And all the time, you know, they would give me a white note and I'd be like, ah, shit, not again. You know, it just because it was terrifying. You know, there's hundreds of people and, you know, everybody. And, you know, this topic was something to make me get up out of my seat and do it again, you know, even though I hated it so much. You know, I left the church when I was 14, you know, and it didn't really even bother me doing it. You know, it kind of trips me out sometimes, but you know, talking to people one-on-one has always been a lot better. You
It's
know,
empowering.
that kind of exposure is good. You know, just like going around and, you know, yelling, "Ah, the earth is flat, the earth is flat." You know, like I told one of my friends and he was like tripping for like a long time. You know, he was like riding around on buses, like telling people all the time to say, "The earth is flat, the earth is flat." Like, you know, he's not going to convince anyone like that, but he is going to expose them.
Right. So is it our responsibility to arm them? I mean, I feel it is. That's why we're doing what we're doing now. You know, we're trying to pass on the knowledge and information about heliocentric deception and flat earth. But when you just give it the flat earth spray right in someone's face, do we have a responsibility to give them some sort of backup, some sort of information so they can go out into the wild and pass it on further?
Well,
Yeah,
you go ahead. Thank you.
I don't think actually you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I can't even remember, dude.
Okay, wait. I think we have a responsibility. That's
Okay.
what I think. We
Yeah.
have a responsibility. If you have knowledge and this knowledge can actually potentially help people, it might also hurt people, but let's go with help. I think we have a responsibility to share it. Let's just imagine we're somewhere where there's no food and you find the food supply. Should you keep the food supply for yourself? You'll live longer than the other people and you'll feel better. Or should you share it? Share it.
Right.
Because everyone will have physical strength then, and there will be more people involved, and then we can all tackle the problem. It's the same thing as flat Earth.
Like
Sharing
I
is
had
caring.
I had this roommate, and he one of the first things he told me was that Luke Skywalker was his hero since he was 3 years old, and he was just in such a bad state. You know, he was in a very bad point in his life, and I thought I could help him. You know, so I was like, what if I could tell you something that would like change your life? And
But
yeah, he was very resistant, you know, exactly like I expected somebody like that would be. You know, he was all of a sudden an expert, you know, on the globe. But you know, you could tell, you know, nobody is. Globalists, they don't know what they're talking about. You have to explain all the facts, like you were saying, all the supposed facts.
Even when you stack those up, we've all seen the debate channels where you have a seemingly endless expertise in every facet of globe science that you could imagine, and yet these same people will have, you know, a bit of moon landing footage put under their nose. It's blatant models. We all laugh our heads off when we look at this stuff these days. But you know, you've got these blatant models, and you put it under the nose and go, well, look, that's blatantly a set. And like you say, the cognitive dissonance immediately just kicks in. Well, of course it's not hairspray. They're in space. Why would I even consider that? So it's like, no, they're not models. They're in space. It's just nonsense.
right. Now, have you guys noticed? I've noticed something that if you say something to the effect of, there are people who believe the Earth is different than what has been taught to us. If you say something like that, an open-ended thing, they immediately go to flat.
Yep.
That. If you think about it, there's a whole range of possibilities, ranging from, you know, an oblate spheroid all the way up to Stephen Christ's inside of a ball. You know, the whole spectrum. You know, so why is it, if it's not a ball, then it must be flat? There's something in our heads that we know that this is ridiculous.
I think it's because it's obvious. I mean, I kicked myself. You're like, God, this is so obvious. I've seen it so many times. Why didn't I notice it before? In other words, it's not like it's been, I think they've kept it on the boil to let us know it should be ridiculed. But by the same token, it's only being ridiculed so that you don't notice the fact that it's obvious and observable. You're walking around knowing it's flat all day long.
Oh, yeah.
The globe is a funny thing.
Patricia. So yeah, how maybe you have got far more expertise in communicating stuff in general to the public. So how have you found the transition to communicating something as touchy as flat Earth?
Well, from being in radio, I learned how to communicate who sang that song and what album it came from. And then, you know, doing a little bit of news talk in radio in a small market, I kind of basically read things that came off a wire service and changed a few words to personalize it. It wasn't really communicating. That's before I woke up. Then when I woke up, I started doing vegan interventions and education on my Facebook page, and just turned it from a regular Facebook page with what I ate and what I did and, you know, the usual sharing of kitten videos to something that had an educational basis. And through veganism, I kind of learned ways to tell people about a subject that they probably, if they weren't vegan, didn't want to hear about, which is pretty much what flat Earth is for many people. It wasn't for me. It was something I definitely wanted to hear about. But for some people, it's something that they put off the wall immediately when you tell them, even something as innocuous as the world may not be the shape that you think. Because, yeah, you're right, Tony, they go right to flat. Maybe because we've been seeded with that, with Obama and all of this other stuff that's happens. And, you know, the flat Earth and the turtles, or the flat Earth with the ship going off the edge. It's been mocked and ridiculed, and it's in our subconscious.
It's also been in our education system. You know, we're told that the ancient people thought it was flat, and then they found out that it's actually a globe. You know, that was the point that they reached. So we have it definitely seeded at an early age that it's nonsense.
Gotcha. Yeah.
On Facebook, like I do still with vegan things, I'm primarily flat Earth focused with a little veganism thrown in. And my success comes from failure there, which is I have a lot of friends on there who are vegan and who are not flat earthers. And they see my posts on flat Earth, and some of them defriend me or unfriend me. I'm not sure what the term is, after telling me I'm crazy. But I do get emails later on. And the emails say, I'm really sorry. A month or so ago, I flamed out at you on Facebook, called you all sorts of names, and then blocked you. I've looked into what you said, and you're not crazy after all, and now I've subscribed to your channel. So My success in educating about flat Earth is through failure, which is weird. You just sharing videos and talking to people, just like with or you're an idiot if you eat meat or believe we live on a ball. Nothing really hardcore, very gentle. In person, I've had success with going where the person lives, if that makes sense. I don't mean meeting up face to face, although that too. But if somebody is concerned with the environment and global warming, you might start talking about chemtrails first and then ease your way in through chemtrails to the Earth is flat. It's a natural progression, really. You just got to talk with a person on their level, so to speak.
Well, I've noticed something from you, Patricia, definitely. If you go back in your old videos, Patricia is very, she's very more quiet, and you sit back away from the computer a little more in those early videos, and you're very, very quiet. But now you're very right up in there. You know, it does. I think it does something. It like empowers you. You know, like it's like, yeah, I trust myself. I trust my eyes. And I'm not going to be afraid to talk about this stuff. That's what the flat Earth is doing. And actually, the flat Earth actually helped my public speaking skills, because it actually made me trust myself and like say to myself, hey, I shouldn't be afraid of these things. I should be confident when saying, because there's nothing really, there's really nothing risque about this. You're just saying that what you see is flat. That's all you're saying. You know?
Yeah,
so
nothing to be ashamed of.
Trusting yourself, trusting and saying that and believing that you do have something worthwhile to say.
A lot of confidence comes from public speaking on any topic, actually. Part of knowing about flat Earth and speaking to people or doing it on Facebook or social media of any sort is knowing the model that we supposedly live on, and then knowing the flat Earth model. But don't be afraid to be wrong about something, because who knows all the answers? If you don't know the whole, traditional model and can't answer a question of somebody's, you can just say, I don't know that answer. We can look it up and look it up with them together. If you are a bit involving the flat Earth and how this all works, we don't know exactly how it works, but look it up. Share a video if you're not confident with what you yourself have to say. Videos are fantastic tools, but I'd say share a few from different people to give different perspectives. I wouldn't ever say there's one person who's got it all figured out in flat Earth. We all hold a key. We all hold a piece of the puzzle. And speaking out, no matter if you think you're horrible at it or not, that's how we do it.
Mm-hmm. And the fear of being wrong is what put us in the globe in the first place. Is we had the establishment telling us what's what, and I don't want to go against the establishment because then I'll just be another stupid person, So
yes, it's a nice role reversal though, to go from thinking, oh no, that's terrifying. I know nothing about where I live really. That's just stuff I believed in, and then you go from that to, hey, it's all up for grabs. I can look at all of it. Everything. I can find it all out of my own accord. Wow, this is wonderful. Just have to get off my ass and do it. Wonderful.
Now, people wrongly take that as that rubs them the wrong way because you think you found out something that nobody else has found out. Something like that's what bugs me, is that you think that you're in on something that nobody else is in on. I think that's what bugs people.
You're special.
But really, we're doing the exact opposite. We're actually purging ourselves of all the knowledge that we think we may have learned, and being honest and saying we know jack shit and nobody else knows jack shit either, which I can see could come off as, oh, here's this flat earther, doesn't know a lot about the cosmology. So in order to reverse that, he's going to say that everyone is on his level of ignorance as well. What do you guys think is the best way to fight that notion? That you are a know-it-all rather than a humble person purging themselves of false knowledge. How do you get that across to people?
NASA fraud.
Yeah, that's a good way, because all of us are affected by it. And also just pretty much saying that you yourself were in the same boat as you, Susie, or you, Tom, just a short time ago. I believed everything was as presented. Started looking into it, saying, hey, I'm not saying you're dumb or anything. I'm just saying I found out something that you can find out too. And it doesn't make me know this information because I was just like you a few days ago or months ago or something like that. Because we really are we're all on this journey together, whether or not you're coming to Flat Earth today or it was, 6 months ago or a couple of years ago. We're all newbies to this sort of thing, even if I believe it's in our subconscious since birth and drilled out of us.
Well, I think DITRH, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, had a little end piece, a little end for a video that he got from Fiverr, and it had the perfect words, which is what you kind of want everyone to take away from your videos. Research Flat Earth. In other words, have a look at it for yourself. We keep saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Well, that's very true. There's nobody ever going to tell me how it is. I'm going to decide for myself. There's plenty of people out there, unfortunately for Flat Earth in general, that are still spoon-fed the Flat Earth information, which in many ways is just as bad. But what we're trying to communicate is that when you find out that you know very little, you can actually have a look and start finding out for yourself. And we're trying to encourage people to join in on having a look and researching. And people in this community are doing just that. I mean, Dr. Zach released another video about the apparent position of the sun today, part 2. Wonderful video. Jaron and Bob have just released videos that have got detailed explanations about exactly that. We've got researchers out there that are, in their tone, pretty annoyed, with how things are at the moment. And I'm annoyed. The fact that we, the little people, have got to do it when we're paying. It's not that, it's kind of contrast to what I've said, why should we have to do it when I'm saying it's empowering? But by the same token, we have actually paid for it already and have just been given cartoons and lies and models. So it's kind of with a heavy heart that people are out there doing this research because we've been duped. And we all kind of feel a bit stupid. I'm saying this for me. I certainly feel this way. You feel a bit kind of, I can't believe I bought it. I can't believe I was duped. And I know that there's someone somewhere sat with a big grin on their face going, still putting this nonsense out there and smiling the whole time. It's duper's delight.
It's like 9/11 when you look at the planes, so-called planes hitting the buildings. You say to yourself, if you did believe it when it happened, some people knew right away. You say to yourself, how did I ever believe that was real? It's the same thing as Flat Earth looking at footage. It looks so incredible with other people because you don't want people you love or know or even casually meet to be lied to. It's you want to wake everyone up, and you can be almost filled with zeal or overzealous in some cases. So you have to sort of take a measured approach, as many have said here, and speak to them on their level and come at them from where they're coming from as a human being. And that's, I guess, why we do this.
Yeah.
That's pretty much you broke up a little bit at the beginning, but I think through the breaking up, I think I got, how did we ever believe this? And I like that in a way. I kind of find it comical. I look back with a bit of a smile until you think of how much they're still pissing up the wall on nonsense that they feed people daily to keep them indoctrinated. So it's kind of, one day you'll have the great, well, we can go out and find this information out. It's all open for grabs. And then the next day you think, it's normally when you see a piece of propaganda and you go, God, they're still programming people with this rubbish. How angering it is, and you want to engage with it. But in reality, the only way to kind of get away from that is to kind of turn your back on it, disengage from it, disassociate yourself from it. Because the more you're there throwing stones at them, you kind of, at each stone that might hit and you think, that's really hurt them, all you've done is just draw more attention to this nonsense that's being put out there. So it's hard to know how to communicate it. Do you laugh at the person that has no idea they're living on a flat plane? They actually believe they live on a spinning globe. If I took that attitude with them and just went, what a ridiculous notion. You think you're on a spinning globe? Like you say, they would then take that as, well, you're just so arrogant. How dare you assume you know something I don't?
Exactly it. That's exactly the problem, because that seems offensive for some reason to people. That seems like we are like I'm being the aggressor, like I'm coming up to you and saying, you know, you're wrong, I'm the right one. That's very disturbing to me, how people see researchers as only researching something because they're an arrogant person. Guys, if I were a real arrogant person, I wouldn't care at all about this earth. You know?
Well, arrogant's a good word. I'm sure we talked about this on a conversation on Skype a couple of nights ago. It was in Lorenzo's Oil. You guys seen this movie?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, great movie. There's a point in the movie where the main character, whose son's very sick, is looking into the science for himself and ignoring what the doctor's advice is. And the other parents who have a similar illness in their child say, look, you can't challenge the doctors, that's just arrogant. And the guy gives the literal, the Latin explanation for the word arrogant and its origins, to say that it is to challenge, to not go along with the establishment. So to be arrogant in some ways is a very positive thing. I've probably really butchered it, and I haven't. This is, I watched the movie 10 years ago, but as soon as you said arrogant, you think, well, that's very apt.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. So we actually are being arrogant.
I think so. I'll have to watch that movie again. Yeah, Lorenzo's Oil. But yeah, I'm pretty certain
arrogance isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Alex Jones arrogant, is Stefan Molyneux arrogant? They're pretty big guys and they're both pretty arrogant.
Maybe.
Yeah, but what is arrogance? Do we even know the true definition of arrogance right now? Because it's been painted so horribly to us.
I'm sure Patricia's beaving away looking it up as we speak. It is usually the case. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's a position of arrogance when you say you absolutely know for certain, and deep down, if any of us were put on the spot, would say, well, no, we are trying to find out categorically where we live, because there is more to it than us being on a flat plane. However, we know there's no curvature. So what are you left with? There's not a great deal to flat Earth in my view. There's a distinct lack of curvature. That's pretty much it. You can move on to the physics of water if you want to get technical. And most people would say that's a fundamental principle of flat Earth. I say no, there is no curve. That's it.
And let's not forget the big hurdles we had to jump over to get here in the first place. I would say, first of all, I can say that we do believe in a higher power, which in itself is quite the statement in these days, in this these atheistic times. It's that in itself is a very big statement, that there's a power that you can't see, that you believe in, above you, higher than you, more influential than you. Just that makes us crazies in this day and time,
So true.
Yeah.
So, and I actually laughed. I laughed at this fear last night because I was thinking about how this world, the flat world, is different nowadays, and I'm realizing how it's this structure, this thing we're living in is complex. The sun, the motions, everything is so complex. And then look at the ball. There's no design in the ball. It's complete chance. Everything in that universe is chance. It's just, and I laughed at it. It's just, we're here by chance. It's just happenstance. It's ridiculous the more and more you think about it. And I actually laughed out loud last night thinking about the rock in space.
It is funny. And I think laughing at it is another great way to help people understand where we live. Laughing at it after, not the people who believe we live on a ball, but showing them things that are literally laughable. And humor is a great way to teach.
So I looked up the etymology of the word arrogante is where it comes from. If I'm saying that wrong, I don't care. It's to claim for oneself. There you go. So to claim for oneself. So in that instance, he's saying, look, this is a problem, a medical problem that I am going to resolve. I take ownership of this problem. I claim it for myself. So yeah, we're taking ownership of where we live, what we fundamentally are, and where we are taking ownership of that.
Yeah.
We're
Our
not going to be
birthright.
told.
We're certainly claiming the conversation, that's for sure. We're taking control of the conversation because NASA won't even comment on it. Neil deGrasse Tyson can't be bothered on it.
Yeah.
So you really can't. You
Dropping
can't
a
be the
mic.
authority on anything if you can't talk about it. So
Yeah, dropping a mic is proof of nothing.
And
yeah.
yeah, it's proof that somebody else paid for that mic, not him.
How about that brand new one they tried, the 360 camera vision? Did you guys see that?
Yes, I saw that. Horrible and short and stupid. So bad that they made it bad on purpose. Because they could have made a perfect one. Watch a movie like Gravity and you'll see they can totally fake that stuff perfectly. They made that bad on purpose.
Just seeing that they have nothing, they still have nothing is so, I'm so happy for that. It's I can't even describe how happy that makes me feel, how that is their biggest thing. And he even put in the whale comment. Did you see that? He even said, see, look, no turtles holding it up. It's perfectly round.
Sad.
Maybe someone can give some padding. There may be people watching that have heard this a couple of times. I wasn't going to do it first time I heard the turtle reference. I know what you guys are on about, but maybe you can explain
Sure.
to people.
I'm not sure who it was, but I think it was a Russian astronaut on the International Space Station, took up a 360-degree camera, and that kind of camera records from every angle, so it looks really weird him walking throughout the space station. But basically, he just took the 360-degree camera and went over to the what do they call it? The big window.
Yeah, like the viewing window.
Cupola. The cupola.
He put it up to the window of the cupola, and it looks like it actually exits the craft at one point. Did you guys realize that? It goes so close to the glass that it actually looks like the camera's outside of the craft, which like made me look at it again. But I mean, if that's all they got, guys, this is exciting. This is very exciting.
They have that the turtle myth. I think I may be wrong here, but it's in China, holding up the Earth with the turtle. So that might be what you might have been getting at, Nathan.
Right.
Other cultures as well have varying myths of how the Earth is here.
Yeah, it's turtles all the way down. It's on the back of elephants, and it's also Terry Pratchett Discworld. It's that admittedly is flying through space, but the Discworld is on the back of elephants, which is on the back of a giant.
Yeah,
I think it's a turtle.
Hindu cosmology has a turtle as well. I love turtles, so I don't know. I need to go to the Galapagos Islands and see the giant ones.
Who knew that turtles had a flat Earth association?
Russian Vids has turtles. He has 2 turtles that he often shows in his videos. So maybe Russian Vids has always known the Earth is flat.
And those turtles spend a lot of time on the Earth too. They're kind of like the champions of,
yes, they do.
Of ground walking.
Yes, plane walkers. Longest lived plane walkers, maybe, as far as I know. Yeah.
Heck yeah. They're like the little Yodas of the flat Earth.
Yes, they are. So cute. I like them. Love them. The fact of a turtle that it can die because it turns over and is laying on its back, and unless something rights it, hopefully another turtle or a helpful human, how bad design is that? If you think about it, when you fall down, you can't get up.
I think it's a myth actually, because
really,
yeah, they do self-right. It's actually the opposite. It's like the perfect shape to self-right.
Okay, good, because it just seemed like a bad design. All right. Well, humans have some bad designs too. We've got our nose over our mouth, so if you've got a cold, then you've got something gross going on. So we have a few things that aren't so good. Yeah, I know, you're right. Upside down, pointing up. Exactly.
On the elbow, on your knees.
No, upside down makes more sense, right? No, that would be bad because you could drown if it rained. All right, so it's the perfect design. I take it back.
Talking of being upside down, that's actually one of those one of those accepted principles that people, when they know they live on a globe, just write off, that you can give them. It's part of their model, that they accept that people are literally pinned upside down, antipode to them. You know, that's a really crazy notion now that you think back on, having that belief, how you could ever just hold the belief that literally people are pointing upwards towards you, you know, in Australia. For me, it boggles the mind how I ever accepted that now.
Yeah, well, you're told and then you believe. That's really what all of this is about. You're told,
Right.
then you believe. The same thing with traveling one place and the winds are behind you and you're traveling the other way and the winds are at the front. So you think you'd be arriving slower then. Then when you look at the flight schedule or the time that it is, it's not, I don't know. All of it is something we've been told that we end up believing. Go ahead.
Did any of you guys ever ask the question when you were on a flight about would it be quicker on the way back? Did any of you have that thought?
Yes, I had when I was young, and I was kind of told, in essence, yeah, you just don't know, you don't understand.
I was told that the time is different, and it's probably due to the the jet stream, like because we're going across the U.S.
Right.
So you were never given a globe explanation. It was just never. I mean, what I mean by that was, knowing that you're living on a spinning globe, you assume that when you know, not knowing about Coriolis.
I know what you mean. It's just I can't really say that I ever thought about it past. Wait, so you dig and then you get to China.
Yes, yes. I used to think about that when playing in a sandbox when very young, not thinking I could do it, but thinking I'd heard about it. And there's people there that are living upside down.
Oh, I definitely brainstormed. Oh, what would we have to build the craft out of to go through magma? Like, these are the ridiculous things that you start thinking about on the globe. Like, maybe if I had a craft built of diamonds and it was sealed, maybe we could plunge into the magma. It's just time wasting.
What about the fact that the way the globe is oriented and the way the United States is oriented, since I'm in the U.S., I'll just use me as an example, that we're right there. Like, the U.S. is big and it's the most important one, and always in pictures, oftentimes it's shown, and it's set in such a way that we're always right side up, like we're at the top. Why? It's some kind of like prejudice against other people. The globe, if it's spinning, would have, well, I guess it's spinning with the axis, it turned a certain way, so it's always going to be oriented that way. It just seems to be created in such a way as to make certain countries more important than other countries, is what I'm trying to say.
This happened on a Skype conversation the other day with Jaren. You were there, Patricia.
Yes.
And we were looking at Australia, and I was like, no, reorientate the globe. And he's like, I don't like looking at it like that. And it's like, yeah, but if you were Australian, you would have it orientated so that you were at the top. That's how they, that's how they tell us to have it. That's how it should be. But of course, when Jaren's looking at it, that's unfamiliar. It doesn't look right. So he wants to orientate it with it essentially upside down, which I'm thinking, well, that's just because you're familiar with that. But we can't but help accept the way we see things. We're so used to seeing it orientated that way. That's the way we position it, just so it makes sense.
Yeah, everything that we look at in life comes from our perspective. Even when you move somewhere new into a city that you've lived in for a while, the way you see the city is from the perspective you had when you first moved there, from that place you used to live. That was the center place, and you moved outward from there. And then you have to rethink where you're going. Well, okay, well, I used to go this way, now I'm going this way. It's all about that. We've been told a certain way, or we've been living a certain way, and we have to reorient ourselves to the world we live on now. It isn't really the world we live on now. It's the world we've always lived on. Surprise!
That's why I love Mappa Monday so much, because it's so unique. Their representation is so unique. Even though it served them very well, it looks nothing like ours, but that's why I love Map of Monday so much. We should really start. Have you guys checked out the winner for? There was like a contest in Japan for a new world map. Did you guys see
No,
that?
never saw it.
And the winner won, where he put the globe. He orientated the globe in a different way with the continents pointing different ways, but they still are representative of the distances. Check that out. I'm not sure what it's called. It was a contest in Japan, but the winner, you know, the continents look totally different on this map, but he's just mapping it out from a different vantage point rather than standing on the earth and mapping, or standing on the United States and mapping out the countries. You know, he's mapping it out from a different perspective. So it's really cool. And he won it with that.
Did he win a globe?
You know,
Here's your prize.
I'll make a video on that. I'll put a link in my next video so all you guys can check that out. It's really interesting.
Good idea.
Because it looks like they may want to, you know, if they're going away from the globe, they're probably looking for different ways to represent the Earth right now, you know, so probably why they had that contest.
Martin in chat says it's Fisher's Maps. Does that ring a bell?
I think so. Is it new? Is it brand new?
Hopefully he'll get back to us in the chat. We shall see. They've got a bit of a delay, so we'll see. Yeah. Yeah,
it basically looks like a globe. It's weird. It looks like a globe that's cut vertically and then fanned out in a rectangle rather than squashed with the North Pole at the center. It looks like someone cut a globe vertically and then fanned it out rectangularly. It's really weird.
That's probably a good little segue into one of those interesting ways that you can get people into this subject in general, which is there are no maps, literally none. We don't have one. You know, the globe isn't one. None of the maps are one. They're all distorted. There are no accurate maps. So that in and of itself should set alarm bells ringing in some people's heads.
Yeah.
Some people at some level may know it anyway, but if you highlight the fact that, you know, we're in 2016 here, really, we should have it down completely. You know, the fact that they don't match, you can then move on to the pictures that we get given from space, from the distorted land masses that never match up. And so it goes on. At that point, you've got them hooked on the fact that chances are it's not a globe. And as we've said throughout this show, what are they left with as an alternative? When you find out there's no curvature, you're left with a flat Earth. That's basically what you've got.
It's so funny how quick they go to flat, though. Like, it's so funny. If you say that there's something else people think the globe as, the first thing they do is flat. They know that that's the only other option, is what they see is true.
Right. And they don't say pear-shaped or oblate spheroid, as has been attempted to be programmed into people's heads. Very few people will come back with that, which is good, actually. But then again, you can point out to them the pear-shapedness of Earth and then show them the NASA photos from space and say, you see any pears here? And then, of course, you can be somebody who's astute will come back and say, well, it's so small that you can't detect it with the naked eye. Well, then you can come back with, why do they even mention it then? I mean, it's, you know, on and on and on, point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint. You need somebody who's open to it to begin with. There are people from the get-go who are not open to it. Plant the seed. That's the way to do it. Plant the seed, and they will come to it if they do on their own time. Other people are just ready to immerse themselves like I was immediately. So
what we're talking about is the Neil deGrasse Tyson little bit where he says that the Earth would be forced out at the center, so it's a little bit chubbier at the center, therefore an oblate spheroid, but it's also fatter at the bottom, therefore a little bit pear-shaped. Now that's the bit that all flat earthers take, and this bugs me because it's taken out of context. He goes on to say that it's essentially a perfectly round sphere, and that if you were to run your hands over, if it was the shape of a bowling ball, it would be absolutely perfectly smooth, even with all the mountains on it. And it's a great little bit that people leave out, because when you have people say, well, you know, how can you say it's flat? We've got mountains, we've got valleys, there are these huge geographical, the topology of the land says it's not flat. That's a nonsense. And you go, well, by the same token, you know, that's what, when you're referring to a sphere, it would be perfectly smooth. By the same token, you know, the vastness of our land by comparison to the highest of high mountains, you know, Everest pales in comparison to the vast expanse. You know, it would be perfectly smooth if it was laid out in this camera shot, you know, the infinite plane theory aside, you know, it would be perfectly smooth. You know, so to call it flat is not farcical, you know, it's literal. It's just difficult to get that concept across to people when their mind tells them that literally people are stuck upside down with all of the oceans, the weight of them literally sucked up towards their feet in Australia or China or wherever is the opposition to where you are now on this flat plane that we actually live on. If you've got that kind of idea in your mind, to just say, well, no, it's kind of as it looks, you know, when you've gone up in your airplane, looked out at both sides of the window and seen the horizon is there at eye level on both sides, you know, you're going to know instinctively. People aren't stupid, you know, they have to fight against that. They have to brace against it with their programming, with their indoctrination, with the lies they've been fed. So to offer this information is a delicate subject. You know, it's so loaded, the term itself, flat earth. We even have the Flat Earth Society pumping nonsense into the, you know, the ideas that we're trying to promote. You know, the idea of looking for yourself is kind of ruined when you have somebody in the Flat Earth Society saying we're still in space on a disk going up, and that's what's causing gravity, which, you know, none of us really believe the idea of gravity as it's presented. So it's a difficult one to overcome when there is definitely controlled opposition as well. I mean, have you guys ever encountered the Flat Earth Society in any depth at all?
I know Joey Rocha has, and he kind of vouches for them. He says he speaks to them. But I sorry to do this. I really need to take off. My dog needs her walk, and it's getting dark.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, thank you for having me, Nathan.
Enjoy your walk.
All right,
Thanks for the globe programming with the mic.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
You and Mark Sargent match mics.
I know.
All right. I'll see you guys later. All right.
Bye, Stephen.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Stephen.
You know, later I'm going out to eat, and I'm going to an Italian restaurant with a bunch of friends. None of them are flat earthers. And I'm going to hope somebody orders pizza at this restaurant, because it's like an opportunity to, at least they know I'm a flat earther, but they think I'm kind of nuts. Just say something like, look at this pizza, just joking with them. I joke with them all now, just because I've given them video links over time and etc. And some of them think, oh, well, you know, yeah, it seems pretty valid. It could be. But here in Houston, Texas, I mean, we've got NASA pretty close by. So you see people wearing NASA shirts, and they're not wearing them ironically here. They're literally wearing them because they work for NASA or they think space is cool. So yeah, I'll be mentioning it when and if I see a pizza pass by in this Italian restaurant. So they'll laugh like they always do.
Puddle theory, if it's pepperoni pizza.
Yes, exactly. I'll mention that. If somebody orders pizza, that will be said by me. And over there, the pasta, well, that's another puddle.
Nothing makes me more happy is when a family member or friend of mine can kindly laugh with me about my flat earth stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, not in a hurtful way, but you know, making kind, joking, you know, diffusing the situation by saying, oh, you know, by saying like something like you said, Patricia, oh, where do we want to go to eat tonight? Oh, I'm sure Tony will want to go get pizza because it's flat and round.
Right.
You know, that's actually a good sign.
Yeah.
That's actually a good sign.
You've planted a seed in their head. And one of the people you plant that seed in the head of is going to take it farther than that. It's going to happen. because, we all, remember how we first found out the earth was flat and what video we saw or who told us. But it happened before that. And I'm not talking about the fact that I think it's probably in us from when we were born. I mean that we came across things and we don't even remember we came across them. Like we were talking about when we were children, little things, spinning a bucket of water and the water is is sticking in the bucket, and all these other ways, things that made us think, wait a minute, that doesn't jibe with this other thing I was told. It's in us. We ignore it. We push it aside. And then someday, at the right time, in the right place, information comes our way, and we push that button on that YouTube video, or we start listening to Caveman 444 videos, or watch a Nathan Oakley video, or, whatever the case may be. And it's the aha moment, but it's not that video that happened that made it happen. It's all that little stuff before, and reawakening to who we really are, all coming together at the same time.
Now, I want to ask you guys, do you think there are some times where this person particularly is not ready to wake up to the flat earth? How do you make that decision to just forget about it, not talk about it with them in fear of ruining their paradigm? We already talked about this with old folks, people really old. You don't really want to tell them. You don't want to ruin their world. Okay, they're in their life. They're about, they're on their way out. You don't want to put a monkey wrench in their world. So how do you guys decide who you go forward with, who you let sleep? What are the kind of cues that you pick up?
I just chucked that monkey wrench right in there. 100-year-old grandma, mother, she needs to know.
That's what you would do. I would have bet on that answer. For me, I see where else they may be awake at any age, even if they're 80 and they're awake to chemtrails, or they're one of those people who's aware of NASA fakery, but they're still believing we live in a ball. That part I never get. But if they know 9/11 is fake, then there's a little crack. You can make an inroad with them. But if they believe every single thing is exactly as we have been told, and they watch Fox News or whatever the main news is in your country religiously, and they actually read the newspaper for the news, pretty much it's best to just back away and leave them be, because you will just anger yourself and frustrate yourself and anger and frustrate them. And it creates, bad vibes, so to speak. And no one wants unpleasantness.
Right. It's before their time. You can't rush them. And that's why I don't recommend a lot of YouTube channels, because thinking back on my experience, I had a personal, watching these people, I feel like I have a personal connection with them. I start to get to know them. The only reason why I'm still here is because I like them. I like their personality. They brought me through it. So people knew coming into this, you have to let them find personalities that they connect with. Therefore, they're seeing the journey as their own and original and unique and organic. You have to make their journey organic, which means you can't suggest a whole lot of names, because their journey has to be their thing. They have to feel like they did it. They can't feel like that you did it for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And before I forget, just a couple good pointers that I hear from other flat earthers. Daniel Falkenbach has a really good one where the first thing he does is he likes to predict the other person's beliefs. He'll say, "You believe that the earth is round, don't you? Yes. You believe in evolution, don't you? Yes." And he'll say, "Don't you think it's weird that I can predict what you believe in, your personal beliefs? Don't you think that's kind of odd that you're an individual, unique person, but I already know all your religious beliefs?" And
interesting.
Another one is Kofo72. He's told me a good tip, which is any troll he gives 5 minutes to. Any troll who gives him trouble, you get 5 minutes with Kofo72. After that, it's up to you. But after 5 minutes, I think you can feel good in your attempt to at least present your evidence. So that's what I want to say to the viewers out there. If you get heat from a troll, give them a couple minutes, you know, give them 5 minutes, give them your best proofs. After that, don't let them dismay you. Don't let them bother you anymore, because it's not up to you. But you can feel good in what you did after 5 minutes, I think.
And also, shout goes out to Gerard Fenson and Sly Sparkane. Those guys gave me a huge insight to the heliocentric model. They brushed me right up. So thank you very much, you trolls. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Endless links. They made my life so easy with the links. Brilliant.
Yes. Gertrude Perkins is another one. Shout out to Gertrude Perkins.
Gertrude, thank you. Thank you for all the links. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's true. They help you, sharpen your weaponry when it comes to the information that you need to be able to educate about the false world we live in, to let people know about the real world we live in. I also do not like when people say, well, you guys don't have a model. What I say in return is, you guys don't have a model. It's a theory. And it makes people literally move back. They move back when you say that. Like, whoa. So anytime you can engage somebody and say something with a little bit of humor like that, I think that you might have them on the hook, so to speak, to at least listen to a little bit more. And yeah, it's true about trolls. Some of the trolls can teach you the best stuff. Some of them, though, to 24 hours a day doing this globe stuff, and you wonder why. I'm not doing flat earth stuff 24 hours a day on YouTube, a couple days a week.
It seems as though they think it's dangerous, as if they need to stop this.
Yes, exactly.
As if we are going down a bad path, and they need to save us from this. We need to save the world from these flat earthers. Let's do it together. We will have the Force, the Star Wars, the Star Trek, the next generation. We can do it.
They're the globe evangelists.
Yeah, flat earth is going down. It's the end of flat earth. All your nonsense is over. It's like, no. I'll still wake up tomorrow. It'll still be flat.
Yeah, exactly. Even if YouTube went down, it's still going to be flat tomorrow.
I had to be honest with you.
Sorry, you go ahead, Tony. Go on.
Just really quick, I had to be honest with my mother a couple of days ago, because she's like, she's worried. She thinks it's like, and I don't freaking blame her. She thinks it's like a religion or something. But, I had to just calmly say, Mom, I'm researching flat earth, and I think it's really important right now, and I'm not leaving it for a long time. So that's that, so we need to work on, better ways to communicate, because I'm not leaving this. That's it. I know it feels weird that, like, oh, now I have a purpose or whatever, but I actually do know what purpose means now. It means that you're not getting thrown off, okay? That it means that you have a purpose that you really can't articulate to people, because it's your purpose. And it's not their place to judge that purpose at all, just like it's not your place to judge their purpose. So flat earth, definitely one thing it's done for me was teach me the meaning of purpose. Not that I all of a sudden have purpose where I didn't have purpose before, but now I know what it means.
And you mentioned religion, and people saying that flat earth is a religion. The ball earth is the real religion.
Right.
And it's taught in the church of school. So
right.
Yeah, the religion of scientism.
It's peculiar. It's peculiar how all these brainy types will let Neil deGrasse Tyson make the conversation. It's kind of weird. You'd think that the brainy types would try to one-up Neil deGrasse Tyson. But no, they just fall in line. They just act just like slaves and just follow whatever he says. And yet they're claiming that they're smart. It doesn't make sense.
Yes, and they're claiming independent thought.
Right.
And they're not. Their thought is dependent upon what they've been taught. So how are new discoveries to be made about the world in which we live? It's going to take the people who are unafraid, which is us, I don't mean us here, I mean all of us watching, listening, to go out there and take it for the team, take that punch on the chin and that kick in the stomach occasionally, and just get right back up, shake it off, and forge on. And
You know,
it's cool, it's fine, just roll with it.
I just realized that the brainy type, the Star Wars type, are doing the exact opposite. The brainy types are actually the most conformative.
Yes,
That's
they are.
interesting.
Spot on. Jaron has said this many times, that the job of science is to knock off the perch of the current accepted standard and challenge it. And as you rightly say, they're not doing that. They're backing up and using the old information to fill their gaps in their current understandings and explanations, rather than just trying to knock off whoever, Einstein. It doesn't matter. They should be trying to debunk that rather than trying to prop it up, and they don't.
Pharmaceutical industry, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Medical
Now,
industry.
Do you think
Before
this
we
is
miles off on a tangent, because I want to keep this sort of public
Yeah, yeah,
related? There's one last topic I do want to cover, though, which is about inadvertently passing on this information to others without necessarily wanting to do this. And you had Teresa and yourself had a flat earth conversation, Patricia, in a coffee
Yes.
shop. Now, presumably that's open to the public. There's people listening
Oh,
in
yeah.
on that conversation. I mean,
Yes.
what about those poor suckers that just happen to overhear the wrong thing?
Yes, I'll give the backstory on this. Teresa Gordon is her name. She goes by the name Teresa Double Bubble Gordon, and many may know her. She lives in Galveston, Texas. We're friends. It's pretty close to where I live. And anyway, she told me she was going to be in Houston, messaged me, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Houston. You want to get together and have coffee?" I said, "Sure." And on my way out, I remembered what you told me, Nathan, and you've told me before. You could do some other kinds of videos, just like take your cell phone out and do a video randomly. And it's out of my comfort zone. And as I was walking out of the door and grabbing my keys in my handbag, I thought, I'm grabbing my laptop. I'm going to do it. So when I got to the coffee house, I said to Teresa, "Hey, do you want to do a video? I don't know if it's going to work from here." And she was totally cool and up for it. So I set up the computer there in the coffee place, and we did a show. Now the Wi-Fi connection was bad. My connection where I'm staying here isn't that good either. So sorry, apologies. Anyway, and I kind of walked a bit around the coffee place, sort of did a little spin around to show how cool and interesting this place was. It's an independently owned place. And next to us was a man to my right who was listening to the entire conversation the whole time. I could tell he was kind of like looking over at me, and I know he could hear. And I wonder what he thought. And he left while we were in the middle of doing the show, so I wasn't able to turn the mic off, close things down, and say to him, "Do you have any questions about flat Earth?" I would have loved to. I hated when I saw him get up and leave. But that's one person who overheard our conversation about flat Earth, Teresa's and mine, and had a seed planted. Now, he probably chose to ignore it, but he's going to come across 15 other things in the next 60 days. One of those things is going to stick in his mind. One of those things could be Bill Nye the Science Guy talking about the globe, or Neil deGrasse saying something, or it could be something totally different about the true shape of our Earth. Maybe a video will cross his path. Maybe somebody will pass him a Vsauce video and he'll look at it and think, "Oh, that just seems ridiculous. Let me look into this." Who knows? But one seed planted to the guy in the coffee shop. And who knows what tomorrow will bring. Next, he could be one of us on YouTube, Flat Earther, in chat or making videos. That's how it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I assume both Tony and yourself, Patricia, found out by accident. We weren't looking for this information. So you kind of think, well, if a few people find out by mistake, by
Yes.
means of me, oh well.
Yeah, sure.
I found out of desperation, because I was, if you guys remember, there was a steel worker who tried to disprove the fire doesn't melt steel beams thing. You guys remember that?
Yes, I do.
He had a piece of rhubarb, and he heated it up in the thing, and he bent it, and he said, "Get a job," or whatever. That video got me so mad. I was scrolling through the comments and just looking for, oh my God, I hope people are not buying this. Please, God, please, God, let there be smart people in these comments calling out this metal worker. And in those comments of that guy bending the metal rhubarb, that's where I found the flat earth talk. And it's weird because what brought me to flat earth was my desperation, was that, please, we cannot all be this stupid. So in my attempt to find smart people, I found flat earth and I started to listen to them. That's how I came to it.
Interesting. You know, my channel name, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, is helpful because I often make comments on non-flat earth related topics. But there's my icon with my face inside a spacesuit. There's my name, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Somebody could be scrolling through comments, such as yourself, and read a comment, you know, whatever it is that I'm talking about, and think, especially I make comments on vegan stuff, like, what the heck is that? Click. Life changed forever, hopefully, you know. Yeah, it's another way of spreading information, spreading seeds.
One of the most beautiful interactions I have is when I walk into a gas station very, very late at night, and there's only one person working there, and I just stand at the table with them and kind of just bring them through it. When they're alone, you know, they're on the clock, they're alone, they're really, really bored probably. So first of all, having someone to talk to is probably up for them. Like, okay, you know, a little entertainment. Now I'm really entertaining them with the flat earth stuff. You know,
and they can't leave.
And they can't leave. Plus, there's nobody around to make fun of them. Okay, so they're just talking to this crazy guy, and they don't care how they look. You know, so they can really take in this information. You know, and you know they can be polite and say, "Oh yeah, you're right. It could be flat," but those are the kind of interactions I love, is like strangers and like connecting with them on a one-on-one basis. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
That's it. Well, that's one of the bonuses. You know, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would definitely not know Patricia or Tony if it wasn't for Flat Earth. That's an amazing thing to be able to say.
And you guys are the type of people I want to know. You know what I'm saying? You guys are the ones questioning things. Flat Earthers are the people I want to know, because because Flat Earth has harbored a new theme of purity, a purist form of thought, I think. And everyone in the Flat Earth are kind of purifying their notions. You know, we're getting back. Hey, this is what happens in a world of scientism. When theories get built on theories on theories on theories, you're going to have men and women wanting to clear the slate and let's start over. Let's get some concrete evidence before we start claiming things. This is just a natural development in scientism as far as I'm concerned.
And also looking at what's valuable to your life. Flat Earth does that too. It kind of clears the game board or the table, and we reevaluate everything when we become flat earthers. We reevaluate the culture of materialism in which we live. We still want to have, you know, clothes and shelter and a vehicle if we need a vehicle anyway, be that a bicycle or a car. We still want to have these things. We still would like maybe them to be kind of nice and not broken down, but it doesn't mean that we have to be doing this sort of horrible job, like working on Wall Street, stepping on people and crushing them underfoot in order to graspingly get ahead, in order to make the almighty dollar. We can downsize our life a little bit if we choose. We can maybe, if we want, grow our own food, or at least maybe one item of food. We think about the world a little differently, and I think we think about our interactions with other people a little bit differently. Things aren't global anymore. We're all here on this flat plane, and it kind of makes the world two things: bigger and smaller. At this, I don't know which it is, because it's so you realize your actions matter. You're not just nothing. So you're not going to throw trash out of the car window, and not because you're worried about, you know, the things that they tell us. You're not going to be spewing fumes into the environment because of global warming. You're not going to do bad stuff anymore. Not really because God's watching out for you, but because you know You were created. This place is created. We're all created. Why mess up this beautiful thing? And it kind of makes you nicer. I think it makes you more aware of who you are, your place in all of this. And that's where the stepping out of your comfort zone and doing some level of perfect, well, hopefully perfect public speaking comes into play. That impetus in us to spread it, to share it, to help other people.
That's it. It's all about communicating the wonderful message of Flat Earth. Ting! Right, on that note, I'm going to say a massive thank you to Tony, Caveman444, for being on Flat Earth United Kingdom. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Tony.
Hey, I love being on. Great conversation, you two.
Yeah, it was great, Tony. Love it.
A massive thank you to Patricia Steere for being on Flat Earth United Kingdom. Thank you for being here also.
Thank you, and sorry if my signal's been fading in and out. I can't do anything about it, but I apologize.
Yeah, 99% perfect. So thank you very much. And to all of you who have joined us live and in the chat room, thank you very much for being here. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.